morning. I am live in Paris. Tech CEOs from around the world descending here on France this week, including some of the biggest players in artificial intelligence. And I had an opportunity to sit down for a half-hour interview with the French President Emmanuel Macron in an exclusive conversation at the Élysée. Technology, of course, has been a big focus for this president since he took office 7 years ago. And we spoke about that and what he thinks is driving innovation for artificial intelligence and the role of France and how the balance, the issues of AI with jobs, the workforce, and inequality. Take a look.
This is true that a few days ago, we hosted in Paris Choose France, a big summit we created 7 years ago to attract businesses and investment in tech, but on the different sectors as well, with 15 billion being invested for this session. And here we have Vivatech, a big fair created a few years ago, and which is now a huge success. And we have all this AI player coming from all the rest of the world. I do believe that the tech industry is one of the key factors of transformation of our economy. It provides growth, it provides innovation, growth. It created a lot of opportunities for qualified and unqualified people. So this is a big source of mobility in our societies.
Unqualified people too?
Yes, both. If you take, for instance, I very often referred a few years ago on Uber at this stage, but it can provide a lot of jobs by disrupting existing businesses. And it provides as well qualified and unqualified jobs by transforming existing businesses and large caps and existing large caps. So this is why I do believe in this sector, and I do believe I've clearly believed from the very beginning that France should be one of the leaders in this field. We multiplied by 10 in 10 years the scale of our ecosystem in tech, and when you take the difference between US and Europe, we are lagging behind. The growth per capita is half in Europe as it is in US during the past 3 decades. The main driver for such a difference is precisely the lack of innovation and diffusion of this innovation, especially in the tech sector. So we have to do much better. And this is the case. France is leading the tech industry in Europe, and we want to multiply partnership with all the different places of this world. Referring to AI, we can revert on that because AI is not just a sector. This is a huge revolution. And it will completely transform the existing sector, but it will transform education, democracy, work, a lot of things. And I think our challenge for AI is accelerate, innovate, and invest. And on the other side, regulating at the appropriate scale, meaning the global one.
Okay, but let me ask you about this. The CEO of Mistral, who you know, Arthur Mensch, you have called him an example of French genius. He says the biggest risk of AI is a workplace revolution.
I think this is not just a risk. AI will be a revolution for work, for good and bad. Good, it's quite sure now that it will increase productivity. You know, it was one of the big mystery of our economic lives that social networks and digitalization of our economy were not always perceivable in our data as an increase of productivity. Clearly, it will be the case with AI because it will completely transform a lot of
but that may mean less jobs.
But I agree with you. It will push us to shift a lot of qualifications. This is why we have to understand, we have to progressively be aware of that and educate our people, and we have to work very hard on the requalification of a lot of people. We have to train and requalify a lot of people. But the big question, you know, and I speak from experience in a country where robots were less used than in a lot of other places. In the 1990s, robotization was one of the big revolutions of our economies. And we had exactly the same debates. A lot of people said, robots are awful, they will replace jobs. But Western economies, economies with a certain level of wages, with high cost of labor, when they adopted robots, preserved their industrial footprint. We didn't want to have robots in France. We destroyed much more industrial capacity. So the question is how AI will be at the service of humanity and not just seen as a substitute of humanity, which is an awful project. So we have risks, we have to assess them, we have to lead innovation, to be in a situation to regulate in appropriate terms and to say, okay, I want this AI when it is at the service of humanity, when it increases productivity, when it will be a substitute to, bad jobs. But in parallel, I have to maximize the number of good jobs in my economy. This is transition.
Let me ask you this. It's a practical and philosophical question about attracting startups and entrepreneurs to France, which is to say that I think you want to foster entrepreneurship here in France. Yeah. Historically, when you think about some of the great entrepreneurs, the folks who started Google or Meta, they went on to become billionaires. And I want to understand the paradox and how you think about the idea of creating people who may become, people of great wealth in a country that I think has a very complicated view of wealth.
I think wealth is a complicated story everywhere in the world. It's true that France has a passion for equality, probably much more than others. And we have existing taxation, but I got rid of the wealth tax when I was elected president. I put in place a flat tax. This is how we attracted a lot of capitals. And I do believe that indeed we have to promote success through innovation. And I think it's very important in our societies to make a clear distinction. You can have successful people when they perform as artists, in sport, but as well in business and innovation. And it's good for everybody because they create value for the whole people. And you have to accept that, otherwise, especially in an economy of talents, as an innovative economy is, you kill your own capacities if you reject this model. On the other side, the question is how to redistribute at a point of time and to avoid that in 10, 20, 30 years, it will be just the children of those who had talents who will get the economy, which is a different question. So it's very true that in a lot of our societies, the level of wealth is more and more questioned. It is true it was a tradition in France. We changed that. I passed very clear reform to transform this approach. But in parallel, I think this is a good global debate. And I think having a wealth tax is a global debate. And I push with US, with Brazil and some others, a global wealth tax, which is much more relevant than a French or a European one. Otherwise, the talents, just...
I don't know if you saw it. Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, just came out and said that she is against a wealth tax. This is the Treasury Secretary of the United States. Did you see that?
This is a pity. We will have this discussion in G20 with Lula, and I think this is a good global tax. As a minimum tax we push in our agenda, as a digital tax, because you have to avoid big discrepancies. And I think, look, even in the US society, more and more people now are a little bit shocked or upset by the level of wealth accumulated in some hands. It's fair that when you are very innovative and successful, you get money and you're paid for that. And when you create big innovation, even more. But I think this is the right question at the scale of the planet to say we need more fairness. I think it's counterproductive if you just do it, especially for people and talents, at the national scale.
You mentioned artists before and creativity, and Cannes, the film festival, is happening right now. I don't know if you saw this news today, and it relates to AI, so I wanted to ask you. OpenAI just said it would no longer use a voice that sounded like Scarlett Johansson, the movie star, because the voice was too close to her voice, and she was upset about that, even though it was done by another actress. I'm curious, given your thoughts about creativity, whether you think AI should be able, and this is an intellectual property issue and copyright issue, should be able to use a voice that sounds like somebody else's voice, even if it's not the same voice. Somebody may do this to you one day.
I'm using AI, for instance, to translate a lot of speeches in different languages. And this is one of the innovations we make with Mistral AI, the company you mentioned with Arthur. And I think in all the big questions we have on the table, and by the way, it will be the question we will discuss during the AI Action Summit we will have in Paris in February 2015, intellectual property is one of them. I strongly believe that we have to protect our artists, our writers, all the different artists from any threat, and we have to protect the intellectual property. It's very important. And AI should not be seen as a threat if we create the proper regulation. So I do believe that we need, in order to do so as well, a global regulation. This is why in this conversation we need both US and China and the big economies and innovators of this planet precisely to be sure that we protect this IP.
Let me ask you this about big tech, though, and regulation. Mistral is now a huge company here in France, has a partnership with Microsoft. A number of the big AI companies are partnering with big tech all over again. If Microsoft called up Mistral and said, we want to buy you, in this day and age, are they such a national champion? Would you say, I can't do it? You can do it? What do you think of big tech getting bigger?
Look, I think it's not automatically a good news, and I would prefer them to become independent and to grow on their own, because I think M&A is part of the business life, for sure. But what we looked, especially with a lot of big tech and giants during the past few years, is they had a sort of counter-innovation M&A. And a sort of M&A on purpose in order just to digest those who were a little bit more innovative, and to be sure that they take their innovation, but these guys don't go further in order to jeopardize them. I think it's good, and I think it's even good for the US ecosystem to have a very vivid, vibrant, and an ambitious European ecosystem. And it's insane to have a world where the big giants just come for China and US. So we need much more European big players, and I think Mistral AI can be one of them. With a lot of investment, and they decided to locate here. And the more we will have European players, the more the European governments will be in the same discussion as the US and the Chinese governments.